Earlier this year, on January 2nd, 2021, I was driving home from Mexico with my family. I had tears streaming down my face, and I was wondering what in the world I had gotten myself into. We were driving home from an orphanage. I had wanted to do a humanitarian trip with my family for quite a while, ever since I realized what an education was for, and I had been teaching my kids an education is to help us learn to love people and to find our part in doing good in the world and learning how to help them. And once I started realizing that and teaching it to them, I knew that we understood it in our heads, but I wanted them to really have an experience that ingrained it in their hearts. And so we would watch documentaries and start to learn about the things that were going on in the world, the people. I tried to go on service projects, but still I just felt like if we could go on a humanitarian trip, they would learn to love the people and see that there was some good they could do and start to have that motivation to really get that education that would help them do that work. But we're a large family. I have 8 kids, so there's 10 of us, and we have one income, and so going on a humanitarian trip seemed like something that it was a distant dream. Our vacations mostly consisted of going camping in nearby areas that we could drive to, but it's something I really wanted. It's interesting to look back and see God's hand in our lives, how He leads us baby step by baby step into reaching our righteous desires or reaching our dreams. And one day I was sitting at church and they mentioned this Growing Your Business class that they were going to be offering. I had been starting a book, and I had been trying to figure out ways to share this message I felt so strongly about, what an education is for and how to live in a way that we grow and learn and just have a lot of joy and purpose in our lives. So I decided to go ahead and try it. And they asked us, what is your why? And I came up with 2 things, and this is what I shared. I said, well, I really want it to be able to maintain itself. And then also, if there's some money left over, I would love to go on a humanitarian trip with my family. And, I have since learned that when we have enough faith to say something out loud, that suddenly, resources and opportunities will start coming our way. And if we have enough faith to take action on those, then that's how we are led to the things that we desire to do. Not too long after that, I had this idea. I had written my book and it was ready to go. And I thought, what if I do a class that's based on this book? And then I thought, what better place to do it, because the book is called Find Your Path, and it's about learning to get out of our comfort zones and finding ways to listen to those promptings and get out of ourselves and how we do that. And I thought, what better place to do that than at a ropes course where we have to challenge ourselves out of our comfort zone. I'll just start a class. And so I put it out to some homeschooling groups that I knew, and there was interest. And so I started teaching this class at the ropes course that went along with the book. And we read different biographies about people who followed their path and how they did that. And then we did activities related to the principles that we were learning that week. It was that class that I was able to teach that helped us have the means to be able to go on this humanitarian trip. So it's really interesting to look back and see how God gives us different opportunities and talents and gifts and ideas that help us accomplish the work that He has for us. And so here I was in the car, driving home from this experience that I had been longing for and that I hoped would be transformational for my kids. And it had been. They had told me that they felt a lot more gratitude just watching those kids. One of their traditions was that they would write thank you letters, and then on New Year's Eve, someone would draw 5 random letters and they would read out loud the things they were thankful for. And they were things like having a bed to sleep in. Some of them had experience not having that before, having 3 meals a day, having a family that at the orphanage that they could be friends with and love. And so my kids were really inspired by their gratitude. They're also inspired to work hard. They saw how hard they worked, and they were inspired to do something to help in the world. And so all those things I had hoped for had come to be, and they were really touched, and they developed some friendships and learned to love those kids. And I had no idea how much it would be transformational for me as well. And as I was driving home, like I said, I had tears streaming down my face. I was thinking about the night before. The director we had this nice meal. We had tamales and we were all sitting around talking, and then he said, okay, you have 5 minutes to say goodbye to your friends and then we're all going to bed. They're going to be leaving really early in the morning, so this is your goodbye. I think he was trying to like tear the Band-Aid off quickly, right? And it was just a heart-wrenching 5 minutes. The first little boy, he came up to me, he hugged me tight. He was this 14-year-old boy who, when I first met, had been really shy, and I would be talking to the kids and I would just notice him just watching me, fascinated, and then I'd look at him and he'd turn away shyly. But I finally got him to start talking to me, and then we started playing basketball, and just a sweet, sweet kid. I could tell he was just kind of lonely. And he came over, he gave me a tight hug, and I just hated to leave him. Next, a sweet little 11-year-old girl came over to give me a hug, and she had opened up to me a couple of days previously, told me about her mom. They told us not to ask the kids questions about their past, of course, because that, we don't want them to recall painful experiences. But if they opened up to us and told us things, that was okay. After she told me the story, I found out later, I was chopping some onions with one of the older girls, and I asked her how she had slept, and she told me that the night before, this little girl had been writing, and her notebook was taken away because it was time to go to sleep, and she started to scream, and she said she was screaming for like half an hour and we couldn't sleep. And they didn't know why, and I didn't say this, but I knew that it was because she had recalled this painful experience earlier that day, and she probably had all of these emotions, and it broke my heart that she had no mother there to go and comfort her. Like when my kids are sad or crying at night or having emotional turmoil, I can go to their rooms and I can pat them and tell them it's going to be okay. And she didn't have anybody like that, so my heart just was reaching out for her, and I just squeezed her so tight. And then next came another sweet little 13-year-old girl who came back for actually like 3 hugs during this 5-minute period. I had helped her find the song that she loved, and she had been writing it in her little notebook. And I told her as she was writing it once, I was like, maybe you should sing this song for me. I've never heard it. And she's like, oh no, I have a terrible voice. I don't want to sing. And I was like, oh, that's okay. You don't have to. But if you change your mind, I'd love to hear it. And so I had noticed her watching me through the week, but I wasn't sure why. And then one day when I was coming out of the volunteer quarters, it was a rare instance where I was by myself. She came running over and she's like, okay, I'm going to sing you the song now that nobody's looking. And I thought that was so sweet. She had been watching for me to be alone. And she sung me this little song in her sweet voice. It was really pretty, and she sung it really soft so that nobody could hear her. She wanted to make me happy, and she wanted me to hear the song, and that's why she went out of her comfort zone and did something for me. And it was just memory after memory like that with each hug that I gave each of these 40 kids, of these experiences and shared times we'd had together. So of course, as I'm thinking about this, as I'm driving home, I just can't stop crying, and I'm wondering, what can I do? I feel like I need to do more, than just visiting them once and leaving them behind. And I thought of something my mom had said. She was an orphan in Mexico as well. She had grown up by herself most of her, from around age 5 to around age 12 when she found her dad again. He had abandoned her. Even then, though, he wasn't a present dad. So she had been pretty much on her own. And she said the one thing that made the biggest difference was having somebody there that showed her that they cared where she was and what happened to her. So I thought, well, I can at least let these kids know that I care. So I started in the car writing some letters. And that was the first step for me. And it struck me that I had been being prepared to take the next step for a while. I had written educational programs. I had started commonwealths and co-ops that functioned like a school. I had been writing this message about what an education is, its purpose, and the methods of attaining one. This is something that I've been passionate about for a long time. And I thought I could start a school that is dedicated to this humanitarian work, where we find and use our creative gifts and talents to make creative projects that would raise money to help us get out there as families, to see the needs that we can help fill, to come home and be motivated and excited to start helping fill those needs. And so I'm going to start doing that, and I'm going to need some help. So here's what I have so far about the vision, the objectives, and how we're going to go about it. The purpose of the school is going to be to discover and use our unique gifts to strengthen our families and lift families throughout the world. We will do this by challenging ourselves out of our comfort zone, learning about others who change the world, learning to connect to others by speaking their language, learning to be self-reliant and use our resources wisely, and to increase our resources through entrepreneurial projects that will raise funds for families to go on humanitarian trips and to help with the needs that we see. I'm hoping to be able to have an online option as well as an in-person option. The in-person option will be held at Classrope's course. He took me through and he showed me some of the classrooms we could use, some in his workshop and above his garage, as well as he showed me where we could build some greenhouses to also hold classes. He has a lot of land where we can plant vegetables and trees and whatever we want to do. He said we could put little pens for chickens, the things that we want to do to make our school successful in work. He's incredible. If you guys haven't gone to Class Ropes course in Provo, and just done like a family experience there, you grow so much as a family in unity. You learn a lot about how to communicate. So I encourage you to go and try it. It's a really good thing to do, and you'll kind of start to get an idea of why I feel so strongly about having this school next to a ropes course so that we can do some of those things and learn and grow together. On the document I'm linking, there will be more details. You can see where you can help, where you can pay the deposit to reserve your spot, and all those sort of things. Also, if you have a kid or two that are not very excited about humanitarian work, I just wanted to share my story with one of my sons. He's a very big time homebody. And so going on a humanitarian trip to him was really stressful. He was not looking forward to it at all. And even on the second day of being there, I mentioned like, we should come back. And he was like, no, Mom, we're not coming back. Like, he was not enjoying it. But by the last day, when we said goodbye to everybody, we got back to our volunteer area. He's like, Mom, we have to come back. I think we should come back. And I was so happy to hear him say that, because he had caught the vision. He had caught the spirit of what we were doing. And I just think that getting out there is so important. I also want to share a message that I want to end with that came from the orphanage director. As we were getting ready to have our New Year's Eve dinner, he invited anybody who wanted to come up and share any words as we were closing. And he was last. He went up there and he told the kids several things, but one thing he said really struck out to me. He said, you guys keep dreaming, dream big, but before you dream, remember to get on your knees. And so if this is something that is speaking to you and you think this is something I want to do with my family, get on your knees and dream big, and we can see what we can do with it. It'll be cool to see, what comes of this as we work together and make it happen. So if you have any questions, please let me know, and thank you for listening.